Rockingham spoke about and decried the decisions and the behavior, the mannerisms of the Virginia Parole Board. But with what he said, I feel compelled to respond. The senator from Rockingham talked about a Virginia that is defunding the police, rewarding rioters, punishing the police, and a chief executive that is simply, it appears to be, when you listen to my friend from Rockingham, has a turnstile where prisoners come in and they go out. Well, let me just share the facts, because this is not the first time that Senator Obenshain has talked about one of those individuals, Vincent Martin. And I read in the paper his comments about Vincent Martin, who was paroled. But let me just share with my colleagues the facts. Vincent Martin was paroled after serving 40 years and 6 months. Now, what kind of prisoner was he in when he was in DOC? He took advantage of every program, every job opportunity, every trustee status level he could make. He became such a stellar inmate that when there was a disturbance in another state DOC facility, who do you think they brought in to quell the disturbance? Vincent Martin. He was up for parole several times and he was denied. Finally, after 40 years and 6 months, and after thorough review by the parole board and a unanimous vote by the parole board, he was granted parole. And when he was granted parole, guess who were his loudest advocates? The guards, the corrections officers at DOC, that he was getting out. And when he got his clothes on and he went through outtake and was leaving the prison, they brought him back at the last moment and said, "You're going to be reviewed again," because of the outcry from certain folks. Now, in addition to being a stellar inmate, he was infraction-free. But my colleague from Rockingham describes a situation that isn't factually accurate. For example, there was comments that the parole board did not, quote, endeavor diligently to contact the victim's family. That's not true. Chairwoman Bennett had a phone meeting with the victim's family. It is true that the victim's family wanted an in-face meeting, and she denied that, but that was due to COVID-19. It is true that the Virginia Parole Board failed to notify the Commonwealth's attorney in Richmond in the statutory period. You have to notify the Commonwealth's attorney within 22 days. The parole board did it within 15 days. The Inspector General also determined that Bennett, quote, did not keep minutes as required by law. That's true. But the reason she didn't keep minutes of that meeting was because the board did not meet at that specific time period. Every other meeting that they held, they had the minutes. And lastly, the Virginia Parole Board not only examined his parole plan, but they dived back into the facts and circumstances surrounding Vincent Martin. They read the transcript. I read the transcript. That matter occurred in Richmond. You know, the parole board chairman described it, the then parole board chairman, as a dark cloud of injustice hanging over Vincent Martin's conviction. And there was, and there is. At the preliminary hearing, an individual came in and said the shooter was 6'5". And how did he know that? Because he was there, and he is 6'5", and he recognized how tall the person was. 30 days later, he came in a trial, and that person shrunk to 5'7", which was the height of Vincent Martin. Oh, by the way, the co-defendant was actually, and who gave testimony against Martin, he was 6'5". Now, the 3 other co-defendants were also convicted of first-degree murder. They were released after serving their respective jail terms in the late 80s and the early 90s. But Vincent Martin was released in 2020. Now, I just want to know, what do you have to do to redeem yourself? What do you have to do to show the world that you have improved. You've spent 4 decades in jail. You've done everything that they've asked. You're infraction-free. You're the go-to guy they call when something goes wrong. What more do we do? We can't draw and quarter them. We can't execute them. If we believe in redemption, if we think redemption is good for the soul, then you give them a second chance after 40 years. And let me just end by saying this. My friend, and he is a friend and colleague from Rockingham, talked about law and order. I hope that when we have any discussion regarding parole or OSIG legislation, that there will be a penalty imposed when a secretive OSIG report that is released to the leaders in the legislature is subsequently disseminated to the press, which is contrary to law. Thank you, Mr. President.